The fluorescent hum of a sterile office cubicle usually serves as the background noise for a life of quiet desperation, a place where men blend into the gray fabric of the walls and vanish into the digital static. You are sitting there, just as you have done 1,000 times before. But today, the air feels different, charged with an electricity you cannot name. As your coworkers pass by, something strange begins to happen, a subtle shift in the social fabric that most men simply cannot put into words. People are no longer just treating you better. They are treating you with a sudden, unprompted, and almost unnerving sense of carefulness that you have never experienced. You watch as a superior approaches your desk, intending to deliver a standard critique. But as your eyes meet his, he pauses mid-step, his rhythmic stride faltering for a fraction of a second. He begins to speak, but the words catch in his throat, and he clarifies his point before you even have a chance to respond to his initial statement. He is adjusting his tone, his posture, and his very intent becoming oddly precise and cautious, as if he is standing on the edge of a great, hidden precipice. The biggest mistake you could make in this moment is to assume this is merely a surge in your own outward confidence. This is not the superficial flash of charisma, nor is it the forced performance of social dominance that so many men desperately chase through books and seminars. What is unfolding in the silent spaces between your heartbeats is something much quieter, much deeper, and infinitely more primal than simple social grace. Semen retention is actively changing how the human collective perceives your internal state. And humans are biologically wired to subconsciously rank the internal stability of everyone they encounter. You have become a biological anomaly in a world of fragmented energy, and the people around you are sensing a density they cannot categorize. Today, we will tear back the veil and examine the 5 devastatingly effective ways that retention rewrites the script of how the world interacts with your presence. If you have noticed that people have been acting strangely around you, hesitating, stuttering, or watching you with a newfound intensity, this is the moment the mystery dissolves into cold, hard truth. We are moving beyond the surface-level talk of streaks and benefits and entering the realm of psychological warfare and biological alchemy. This is the breakdown of mechanisms that almost no one discusses, explaining exactly why the world is suddenly pivoting to accommodate the space you occupy. The first realization you must master is that most men are constantly leaking information, broadcasting their insecurities and their hidden needs like a broken radio tower. They leak through nervous gestures, over-explaining simple points to avoid being misunderstood, and facial tension that reacts to a stimulus before a conscious thought can even form. Their speech is cluttered with filler words that betray a deep-seated uncertainty, and their emotional micro-reactions reveal a desperate seeking of approval or a hair-triggered defensiveness. People subconsciously scan for these cues the very second an interaction begins, orienting themselves to decide if they should lead, follow, or ignore you. Retention functions as a revolutionary seal, drastically reducing this leakage until your internal state becomes an unassailable fortress that others cannot easily breach. Your face begins to hold a neutral expression for longer periods, refusing to broadcast your every fleeting emotion to the spectators around you. Your tone of voice stabilizes into a steady, low-frequency resonance, losing the spikes of anxiety and the drops of submissiveness that once characterized your speech. Your reactions compress, allowing you to respond only after the information has fully landed, rather than flinching the moment it hits the air around you. This creates a significant psychological problem for the people you encounter, because humans despise social ambiguity and the inability to quickly categorize appear. When you stop leaking data, people's usual mental shortcuts stop working. They can no longer place you as agreeable, defensive, or passive within the first few seconds of a greeting, because they cannot read your intentions or your emotional position. They instinctively reduce their own aggression and increase their level of respect. They become measured and precise, realizing that you are no longer a target that can be easily pushed, teased, or overridden by their own whims. This opacity does not make you invisible to the crowd. On the contrary, it makes you a singular point of focus, a heavy object in a room full of feathers. In the ancient and modern social hierarchies, those who are the hardest to read are always assumed to possess the most internal control and hidden depth. You do not need to announce your confidence to the room because your lack of leakage does the heavy lifting for you, forcing others to respect the silence. Once people realize they cannot quickly solve the puzzle of who you are, they stop trying to dominate the interaction and start respecting the sacred space you occupy. The second pillar of this transformation is the way your internal clock begins to disrupt and dominate the frantic social rhythms of the average person. Every social interaction runs on an invisible tempo, a frantic beat governed by those who speak too first, those who interrupt to feel relevant, and those who fill silences too quickly. Most men are slaves to this rhythm, rushing their words out before their bodies even catch up. Driven by a deep-seated fear of being forgotten or misunderstood, retention subtly but powerfully changes your timing, allowing you to move at a pace that is entirely your own. You begin to let silence sit without rushing to rescue it, allowing the air to grow heavy with expectation rather than cluttering it with meaningless noise. This disrupts people neurologically because most people talk simply to release the unbearable tension of being present with themselves. When you delay your response, eye contact stretches into something profound, and a microtension resos in the room that is not rooted in fear, but in a heightened state of awareness. People stop multitasking mentally and tune their entire being back to you, sensing that you are processing something of immense importance. They begin to realize, subconsciously, that you are not operating on a base impulse or a socially needy desire to perform for the entertainment of others. Even when you say nothing profound, even when your words are simple and direct, the timing alone elevates your presence to that of an authority figure. Timing is the ultimate signal of self-control, and in the primal mind of the human animal, self-control is the most reliable signal of true power. You are no longer matching the nervous, frantic tempo of the group. You are setting a slower, steadier frequency that others are forced to follow. The third mechanism involves the way people adjust their behavior without ever realizing they are being influenced by your stabilized nervous system. Humans do not merely mirror the personalities of those they admire. They mirror the underlying nervous system of the most regulated person in their vicinity. On retention, your nervous system achieves a state of unshakable stability, characterized by less fidgeting, less restless movement, and a total lack of subconscious urgency. You are not trying to appear calm to impress others. You simply are calm, and that fundamental truth changes the molecular structure of the room. People unconsciously match your baseline, slowing their own speech, lowering their voices, and pausing before they dare to offer an answer to your questions. They reduce their jokes, their filler words, and their nervous over-talking, moving from a state of performance into a state of authentic response. You didn't have to ask for this change, and you didn't have to command it through force of will. It happened because humans are wired to synchronize with strength. Retention raises your baseline, until your presence signals to every other nervous system in the room that there is no rush and no immediate threat. This regulation creates something far more durable and dangerous than simple attraction. It creates an atmosphere of absolute trust and perceived safety. People trust those who do not spike emotionally or escalate tension for no reason, and they find themselves sharing information they would otherwise keep hidden. You become a stabilizing force in a chaotic environment, not by doing anything specific, but by refusing to leak your own nervous energy into the void. In any social hierarchy, the man who regulates the room is the one who ultimately influences its direction, because chaos always seeks the comfort of calm. The fourth shift is the total removal of social neediness, a move that effectively rewrites the power dynamics of every relationship in your life. Most human behavior is driven by a desperate need to be liked, to be validated, or to be accepted by the collective at any cost. Retention quietly and ruthlessly removes that urgency, allowing you to stop chasing reactions and stop fishing for the agreement of your peers. When the need to get something from others disappears, your internal persuasion increases and the respect you receive from the world skyrockets. The final change is the incredible weight that your decisions begin to carry, turning even your smallest choices into acts of absolute finality. Retention changes your decision gravity. You stop overthinking your moves. You stop justifying your actions, and you stop backpedaling when challenged. When you say no to something that does not align with your mission, you stop talking and allow the word to hang in the air like a sentence from a judge. Most men explain themselves because they doubt their own right to choose. But you have found a coherence that requires no external defense. This causes people to respect your boundaries instantly, adjusting their own expectations to fit the reality of your unmoving presence. Light men are easily moved by the opinions of others, but heavy men reshape the entire environment to fit their own internal vision. People are not reacting to your confidence as a concept. They are reacting to the internal coherence of a man whose emotions, actions, and energy are perfectly aligned. Stable systems will always quietly reorganize unstable ones, which is why people hesitate and adjust their entire lives when they encounter your steady gaze. You have not become louder or more aggressive in your pursuit of life. You have simply become much harder to move, a mountain in a world of shifting sand. If you are serious about mastering this state, you must understand that retention without a structure is merely pressure waiting to explode into frustration. This energy requires a clear framework for stabilization, a way to convert stored power into presence, discipline, and the kind of authority that lasts a lifetime. It is about control over your reactions, your timing, and how you show up in the rooms that actually matter to your future. The journey of the retained man is the journey of reclaiming the throne of his own mind and the sovereignty of his own physical vessel. You are no longer a reactive slave to your biology, but a deliberate architect of the energy that flows through your veins and radiates from your eyes. As you continue on this path, the world will continue to adjust, the voices will continue to lower, and the respect will continue to deepen. This is the language of kings, spoken without a single word, understood by the primal heart of every person you will ever meet. If this video gave you real value, tap the thanks button. Your support helps me keep creating deeper content like this. Every thanks is a spark that keeps this mission alive. Your support means more than you know. Walk forward with the knowledge that your silence is your strength and your stability is your greatest weapon in a world of frantic noise. The office cubicle is no longer a cage, but a vantage point from which you observe the shifting tides of human behavior from a place of absolute stillness. You have found the secret that no one explains, the hidden mechanism that turns a ghost into a titan. The line has woken up, and for the first time in your life, the world is finally watching you with the respect you have always deserved.